Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. What was the client's surprise who threw a tantrum in the store and asked to call the owner? Well, the owner was the wife of our OP. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. I demand to see the manager. In the early 90s, I was made redundant from a large telecom company with a very generous payout. This allowed my wife and I to buy a florist shop, she was a trained florist, which has staff including a manager. I got another job in IT, but used to help out in the shop on Saturdays as I enjoy the work. One Saturday afternoon, just before closing time, an irate man came in complaining his flowers had been delivered late for his wife's birthday. I was the only one in the shop, and the other two staff were busy out the back cleaning up and getting ready to close. I found the order, and it had a note on it saying deliver after 10 a.m. It had been delivered at 11:10. I told him that it was quite reasonable that we had delivered it then, as it was after 10 and no other stipulation had been made, so I felt his complaint was unjustified. He got quite aggressive and demanded to see the manager. So grinning to myself, I went out the back and got her, staying out back myself to assist with clearing up. I could hear the guy trying to demand a refund. My manager told him it would have to be authorized by the owner. His face was a picture when she called me and I came back out. And our second story. I'm going to call the city on you. Background. I live on an acreage in a northern Midwest state. Neighbor on west is a good friend and works nights and usually can't move snow before he leaves for work. Neighbor to east is a farmer that doesn't actually do much farming and doesn't work at all in the winter. It's a huge jerk in general and has an extra long driveway that splits to go to two shops and has a walkway between all of it. Neighbor two houses to the east is an older couple, with one being semi-disabled, has a difficult time with one leg, and this is made worse with snow and ice. 3 years ago, my boss gave me the old company Bobcat instead of a bonus. Since then, every time it snows, I use the Bobcat to do my driveway, so West neighbor's driveway and the old couple's driveway after I get home from work. Being the nice guy that I am, I not only move the snow out of their driveway and make piles for their kids, but I usually shovel their sidewalks too, since neither of them have long walks between their houses and their driveways. If I'm in a good mood, I'll move the large bank of snow that the grader leaves in front of CB's driveway. The incident. We got a fairly large snow dump in the middle of spring last year. Doing my usual thing, I got in the Bobcat and cleared the 3 driveways, but on the drive from West neighbor's place to the old couple's house, I noticed that the grader had pushed a more than normal amount of snow in from CB's driveway this time. I thought to myself, that's too much for him to get with his little plow, and I'll do it on my way back. I finished up the old couple's and start moving the mound from in front of CB's driveway. I think to myself, it's really not that much to move the rest of the driveway to my house, and I end up doing it and then going home. The next morning, I get a phone call from CB. I don't want to answer, but I think maybe he's being a decent human being and calling to thank me for doing some of his driveway so he didn't have to deal with all of it. Me. Hello. CB. Hey, OP. I noticed you did some of my driveway last night. Me. Yeah, I noticed the grader had piled a bunch of snow in front of your driveway and thought I'd give you a hand instead of you trying to fight it with your four-wheeler. CB. Well, why didn't you do the rest of it? I see you did all the old couples and West neighbors and did their walkways. Why didn't you do mine? Me. Because I always do theirs. They do stuff for me when I need something, so it's not an issue. CB. Well, I don't think it's right that you only did my driveway to my house and didn't even plow it to the shops. You also didn't even shovel any of my walk, so now I have to. Me. I could have done none of it and let you struggle to move the mountain with your four-wheeler. CB. You could have at least shoveled the steps and the walkway, then I wouldn't have to do so much or have to go out in this cold. Me. Well, next time I won't do any of it, so I won't put you out. CB. If you don't plow my driveway next time it snows, I'm going to call the city on you. Me. I have a better idea. How about next time I don't plow your driveway, you just call the sheriff on me and have me arrested? I hang up. Since then, every time it snows, he tries to beat me out and push a bunch of snow in front of my driveway, thinking the small amount he can move with his four-wheeler will inconvenience me and my bobcat. This "you did 50%, would it have killed you to do the rest" mentality so many people have astonishes me. And our next story. I'm sure he can help me if you can't. During the 2008 recession, I'd lost my job. One of my friends managed a Blockbuster video and was able to get me work there a few nights a week. He rarely came in at night, and it was managed by a younger employee that we'll call Chelsea. Chelsea was 19 and I was 31 at the time. This will be important later. Chelsea did a great job running things when my friend wasn't there and really knew her stuff. She really enjoyed her job and the customers really liked her. One night I'm checking in returns and I hear a lady getting really frustrated with her. She was wanting her to waive a ton of late fees and credit her for a movie that she said was terrible. We definitely didn't credit people for movies because they didn't like them, and sometimes they would credit late fees. She pleaded her case to Chelsea for 15 to 20 minutes, and Chelsea continued to explain that she's had too many credits already. As I'm putting movies back in stock, I feel a tap on my shoulder. It's the same lady, and she insists that I help her. I walk up to the front and stand next to Chelsea. I play dumb and ask what's going on. She points at me and looks Chelsea dead in the eye and says, "He can help me since you won't." I ask her what's going on and make her explain everything over again for 15 minutes. As soon as she's done, I tell her that I would need to talk to my boss before I can get that approved. She asks, "Well, who's your boss then?" I look her dead in the eyes and point right at Chelsea. That lady stormed out the door so fast, and we never saw her again. And our last story. Don't let the VP know we're over budget. Several years ago, I worked in the purchasing department of a large semiconductor company in the U.S. Mostly, I handled all the non-production purchases and contracts like office equipment, building management, travel contracts, that sort of stuff. But my biggest role was negotiating and approving temp staffing contracts for our U.S. factories. One day, a director, we'll call him Bill, sends me a request for $150,000 for temp workers at a small facility in the middle of nowhere, Florida. The news was that a couple of local businesses had closed and had this great idea to save the company money by moving some production down there and snatching up those now desperate workers on the cheap. It seemed like a bit of a dumb idea at the time, but it was clearly his pet project, and $150K was within his right to spend without additional approval, so I rubber stamped it and off he went. I hadn't had much interaction with Bill, but he was a pompous jerk, so I was glad to get rid of him. Now, it's important to this story to understand that our company's finances were super tightly controlled. Not a bad thing, but if you wanted to spend $1 over your role's limit, you better have your supervisor's signature in triplicate. Directors like Bill could spend up to $250K, VPs $500K, and anything over $500K had to go all the way up to our CEO for approval. About 3 months later, the trouble starts when Bill suddenly turns back up asking for more money. Turns out rural Florida doesn't have a lot of people with the skills to work in an industrial clean room, and the people who do don't come cheap. The money that was supposed to last a year is already gone, but Bill's certain that he just needs a little more time and asked me to approve another $250K without telling our VP, his boss. I straight up refuse, since it's my literal job to stop this, but Bill, being God's gift to this company, throws an absolute fit. It got ugly, and long story short, my boss directly ordered me to approve Bill's money without escalating it. I got this all in writing since it was sketchy as hell and absolutely something I could get fired for. Finally, Bill's gone and I don't have to see his smug, short, balding head anymore. Or so I thought. Having disrespected the great and powerful Bill, I was now the target of his displeasure. For the next 4 months, I get at least 3 emails or phone calls a day from him or his secretary about something they don't like about the building, the landscaping, the guy who brings the bottled water, the snack selection in the machine, the equipment in the sea-level gym, on and on. I'm getting openly berated for things that have nothing to do with me, but I'm stuck having to deal with them because my boss keeps caving to Bill's whims. And none of my paperwork is getting past his office either. I manage the purchasing for 12 facilities in the US and Europe, but if it needs his signature, I've got to personally bring it to him and stand there while he reviews it, or he's refusing to sign. It was somewhere between humiliating and infuriating, and I increasingly wished he'd fall down a staircase. After months of this, finally my chance arrived. Shockingly, Bill hasn't managed to turn his pet project around. And what do you know? Just needs $250,000 to get him through the year. I sign off, add the money to the purchase order, which now totals a cool $650K, and shoot off an email to both him and my boss to remind them that this won't be shown to the VP. Then I print everything out, including the direct order not to show it to the VP, and march over to the CEO's office for him to sign. After all, it was now over the $500K required limit, and Bill never asked for him not to see it. All hell broke loose when they realized Bill's little project was $500,000 over budget. He lost his job, my boss was fired as well. The Florida project was scrapped and was retasked to making basic electrical components. I was there for another year, and finally there was peace in my office. Well played. Patience can be difficult, but ultimately rewarding. You sound very wise. Good for you. Hey guys, thank you for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.